All right, so we're diving into something pretty profound today. You know, how different views of heaven, of what happens after we die, actually affect how we live right now. Like, could our understanding of eternity really impact our choices in this very moment? That's the question we're tackling.
It is. It's a really intriguing connection to explore. How our beliefs about the afterlife, or even if we have beliefs, can influence how we approach the everyday. And the sources we have, well, they offer some fascinating perspectives on this.
They really do. We've got sources that lay out traditional Christian views of heaven and others that explore a whole different framework from spiritual science. What really gets me is how they both grapple with these really tough questions like, what happens to those who die young? A life cut short. Is that enough to decide an eternity?
That's a question that's been at the heart of theological debate for centuries. And it's one that spiritual science approaches in a pretty different way. But let's start maybe with those more familiar Christian beliefs about heaven, the kind of ideas many of us grew up with.
Right, the classic image, eternal existence with God, a release from suffering, reuniting with loved ones. It's a vision that brings a lot of comfort, especially when we're facing those tough parts of life.
Absolutely. I mean, who wouldn't want that? It's natural that these beliefs offer a sense of hope and solace for so many people. That idea of a realm free from pain, where we're connected again with those we've lost, well, it's profoundly comforting.
And then there's that powerful image, right, of coming face to face with God, having perfect restored bodies. It's almost like this ultimate upgrade, shedding all of our earthly limitations and becoming something more.
Yeah, there's a sense of transcendence in that, isn't there? This idea that we move beyond the constraints of our physical bodies into a higher state of being.
And this is where things get tricky for me, and I know I'm curious what you think. What about those who die young, before they've really had a chance to, fully explore their faith or make those big life choices? What happens to them in that traditional view of eternal judgment?
It's a question that sparked a lot of debate, even within Christian theology itself. Like, take, for example, someone who passes away at 21. How does the concept of eternal heaven or hell apply to a life that was just, beginning?
See, that's what I find so challenging about this perspective. It's hard to reconcile the idea of a loving, just God with the idea of eternal punishment for someone who had so little time to even grasp these concepts of sin and redemption. Like, their life is just a chapter, and yet their fate is set for eternity. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's a difficult concept to grapple with. And as you said, it raises profound ethical questions. Even within Christianity, you'll find various interpretations, some focusing on God's mercy, others emphasizing the importance of faith and adherence to specific doctrines.
It's almost like the question of those who die young. It highlights potential kind of dissonance within that traditional framework.
Yeah.
And this is where I think spiritual science, it offers this really intriguing alternative way of looking at things.
Yeah, spiritual science brings this different lens to the afterlife, one that focuses on the ongoing journey of the soul, its development over time. So instead of a static heaven, a final destination, it describes multiple spiritual realms, each one serving a purpose in the soul's evolution.
Okay, so less about reaching that final destination and more about a continuous journey. Can you tell me a little more about these spiritual realms? So we're talking about more than just heaven and hell here.
Exactly. Spiritual science describes places like the astral world, where our emotions and desires are amplified, like super intense. And then there's Devachan, a realm of blissful reflection and spiritual growth, where, the soul processes everything from its past life.
So almost like these realms are, stages for processing, for developing after death, rather than just a final reward or punishment. But how does spiritual science approach the question of someone dying young then? Does it see their soul's journey differently?
It does, absolutely. Because instead of viewing death as this, the end, spiritual science sees it as a transition. It's a new phase of existence. The soul, even one that's only experienced a short life, keeps going. It carries all the lessons and experiences it's gathered.
Okay, so we've got these two really different ways of understanding what happens after we die. The traditional Christian view, where there's a single judgment, and then the spiritual science idea with its emphasis on the soul kind of evolving, through reincarnation. It's a lot to process. But I'm seeing how these different beliefs could lead to very different approaches to life, to death, to everything.
It's fascinating, isn't it, how these concepts of eternity, they ripple back and can actually affect our actions right now. For instance, going back to that scenario we were talking about, someone dying young.
Right, right. The 21-year-old whose life ends so tragically. I mean, we talked about the tough questions it raises within the traditional Christian framework, but how does spiritual science address that? Does it offer a different kind of comfort?
It does, in a sense, because reincarnation suggests that this life, this earthly life, it's just one chapter in a much longer story. The journey of the soul, it doesn't end with physical death. So even a short life contributes to the soul's overall development, like adding to a tapestry, of experiences and lessons.
So it's not about the number of years lived, but the quality of experiences, the lessons, the connections made. It's like each lifetime becomes a building block in the soul's evolution.
Exactly. And this perspective can offer a different kind of comfort to, well, to those who are grieving the loss of someone who died young. It's not just focusing on what was lost, but on the unique contribution that soul made, however brief their time was.
It's a shift, right, from what if they hadn't died to what did their life, even a short one, add to the world? That's pretty powerful.
And it also opens up the possibility that maybe the soul chose to incarnate for a specific reason, even if that purpose, wasn't fully realized in that one lifetime. Maybe their presence, just being here, touched lives in ways we can't even fully comprehend.
That's a beautiful way to think about it. It's like saying every life, no matter how long or short, has meaning.
Yeah.
It has purpose in the bigger picture of the soul's journey. But let's bring this back to us. How does believing in reincarnation, this idea of death and rebirth, how does that impact the choices we make today?
Well, if we see life as a series of opportunities, to grow, to learn, and that it extends beyond just this one life, it can change how we view challenges, how we see setbacks, even our relationships with others.
So instead of seeing difficult things as like punishments or just bad luck, we might see them as chances to learn, to grow spiritually. It's like, okay, this is rough, but what am I supposed to learn from this? How can I grow?
Precisely. And it can also make us more empathetic, more compassionate towards others. If we believe that we've all lived multiple lives, it's easier to see everyone as fellow travelers on this journey of soul evolution. We're all in this together, learning and growing through our experiences, the good ones and the tough ones.
It's like reincarnation encourages us to see the humanity in everyone, no matter their background, their beliefs, what they're going through. We're all connected by this shared experience of evolving our souls, lifetime after lifetime.
That's right. And this understanding can really impact how we interact with each other. It might make us more forgiving, more patient, more willing to be kind and understanding, even when there's conflict, even when we disagree.
It's like, hey, we're all works in progress, right? Which I find kind of liberating.
Mm.
But does this mean we don't have to worry about living a moral life? If we have multiple lifetimes to get it right, does it matter as much what we do in this one?
That's a question that comes up a lot, and it's an important one to address. Reincarnation suggests that our soul's journey continues, but that doesn't mean our actions in this life don't matter. In fact, it could mean they matter even more.
How so? If there's not this final judgment based on just this life, why would it matter so much how we act now?
Because every choice we make, every action we take creates ripples. And those ripples, they extend not just through this lifetime, but potentially into future ones. We're shaping our own destiny, but we're also influencing the lives of others, maybe even contributing to how humanity evolves as a whole.
It's like the butterfly effect.
Yeah.
But on a cosmic scale,
Right.
Our actions, even the small ones, can have these far-reaching consequences, not just in this life, but in lives to come.
That's it. And if we take that seriously, well, it can motivate us to live with more intention, to make choices that align with our values, to strive to leave the world a little better than we found it.
So it's not about avoiding consequences or trying to earn a place in some static heaven. It's about taking responsibility for our actions and how they impact the world now and in the future. It's recognizing that choices matter, not just for us, but for the evolution of our souls, for the journey we're all on together.
That's beautifully put. It brings us back to the heart of what we're exploring. How can our understanding of what comes after, the afterlife, bring more meaning to the lives we're living right now?
Exactly. Because if we believe in reincarnation, if we embrace this idea of the soul evolving over many lifetimes, it changes everything. It changes how we approach our struggles, how we see our relationships, our purpose in the world. It even changes how we think about death itself.
It does. And it invites us to live with intention, with purpose, knowing that our choices have meaning, that our actions have consequences, and that we're all part of a much bigger story, a story that goes way beyond a single lifetime.
As we've been exploring these different views of heaven, of what comes after, It's really the idea of reincarnation, this journey of the soul that keeps coming back to me. It feels like it offers a bigger way to understand, well, life, all its messiness, especially when we think about those situations that really challenge those traditional ideas about fairness and divine justice.
Yeah, reincarnation definitely provides a different perspective. It offers a sense of continuity and purpose, even when faced with, with things that feel like senseless loss or suffering. It encourages us to look beyond the limits of just one lifetime and consider the bigger picture of where the soul is going.
And it's not just about finding comfort when things are tough. I think reincarnation can also kind of empower us in everyday life.
Hmm.
It gives our choices, well, more weight, more meaning. If we believe that what we do has consequences that reach beyond this life, well, it can push us to live with more intention, more integrity.
Absolutely. It's like we're not just writing a single chapter. We're contributing to this whole epic, multi-volume story. Each lifetime is a part of that bigger narrative. And the choices we make now in this life, they shape not only what we experience today, but also the direction our soul takes.
It's a powerful concept. And I think it speaks to that part of us that craves purpose, it craves meaning. We want to know that our lives matter, that our choices have an impact, and that even the tough stuff, the struggles, they're contributing to something bigger than ourselves.
And that's where reincarnation offers this framework for understanding that interconnectedness, that sense of purpose that goes beyond the limits of a single lifetime. It's a reminder that we're all part of something so much larger, like threads in a tapestry woven together from countless lives, countless experiences.
It's like we're all in this cosmic dance, learning, evolving, stumbling, getting back up, lifetime after lifetime. But it's not passive, is it? We're not just along for the ride. We have choices, actions to take. And those choices, they have real consequences.
Exactly. Reincarnation doesn't wipe away our free will or make our actions less important. It might actually make them more significant, knowing they can ripple through time, impacting not only our own soul's journey, but potentially the lives of others as well.
It's humbling to think about, right? That we have that kind of power to shape our own evolution and maybe even contribute to the evolution of consciousness itself.
It is a profound responsibility, and I think reincarnation, it encourages us to embrace that responsibility with humility, but also with a sense of purpose, to live with intention, to strive for growth, and to make choices that align with our best selves, knowing those choices have implications that echo way beyond a single lifetime.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I'm left with this feeling of, wow, just awe and possibility. These different views of heaven, of what happens after we die, they offer us comfort, sure, but they also give us a way to understand our place in the grand scheme of things.
And I think that's what makes this whole exploration so worthwhile. It pushes us to think beyond what we currently understand, to consider new possibilities, and to find the beliefs that truly resonate with us on a deep soul level.
Beautifully said. And to our listeners, keep exploring, keep questioning, keep seeking those answers that speak to your own unique path. Because in the end, that's what this deep dive is all about.